Yes, indeed. The Dominican influence here in Massachusetts and beyond stretches much further than the walls of Fenway Park. Now, according to the 2010 census, there were approximately 1.4 million people of Dominican descent in the U.S., and that includes both native and foreign-born. Now, Dominican Americans are now the 5th largest Hispanic group in the entire country, and Massachusetts ranks 4th in the nation in states with the largest Dominican populations. Now, the Dominican American National Roundtable, or DANR, as they like to be called, is the only national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based in Washington, D.C. that advocates for the social, economic, and civic development of Dominicans in the United States. Now, during the year, they host several important roundtables where they invite Dominican American leaders from across the country to discuss and many times even recommend policy to the White House. Now, this morning I am joined for our own somewhat roundtable without a table. I have a discussion with 4 local leaders who recently participated at the most recent national roundtable in Washington, D.C. I now welcome to my left Mayor of Lawrence, Dan Rivera. Yes, indeed, all the way from Lawrence. The other side of the city, we've got Vice Mayor of Cambridge, the other side of the state, Vice Mayor of Cambridge, Dennis Benson, the first Latino to occupy that position. And then State Representative Frank Moran, he also from the Merrimack Valley area. And of course, our Alpha National Chair, Yvonne Garcia. She is also, many of you know, Alpha is, of course, the nation's largest Latino Professionals Association, but Yvonne is also a Senior Vice President and Global Head of Client Solutions Group and PMO for State Street Corporation. So a great group indeed. I want to thank you for coming in today and sharing what exactly happened in Washington, D.C., because I'm anxious to hear, and I'm going to defer to you, Mayor. How would you describe it for our viewers?
Well, I like to tell people is, you know, I've only been to the White House twice. The first time they let me in because I was a mayor, and the second time they let me in because I was Dominican. So imagine having all the most high-profile Dominicans in the community being talked to by the White House, being briefed about immigration, about economic policy, about education policy. You know, the thing that I saw that we kind of kept behind the 8 ball in Lawrence was that my Brother's Keepers program, and they all the people that were critical in that position in all areas of the government were there to tell us, hey, my Brother Keeper about young men of color and how we get them out of poverty and into situations that can be more productive. So it was great. I mean, we heard from everybody, secretariats, the ambassador to the Dominican Republic, the ambassador from the Dominican Republic. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I'd like to we're going to show a picture of the entire delegation from Massachusetts, because there was a lot of, there was, I think, 10 of you guys from Massachusetts. And I'm going to start with our only woman for today, Yvonne. What was most impactful for you?
Well, being in the White House was just an extraordinary experience itself. But I think what was most impactful was being around, you know, Latino and Latina leaders from across the entire country that just had this passion for solving and engaging in healthy debates around areas that are so critical in our communities. You know, we had, as Dan said, we had politicians, educators, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, distinguished students from around the country. And the passion that they expressed when talking about areas of education, for example, was just really inspiring.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Frank over here now, because Frank and you and Dan share this. You come from basically a Dominican city. Here in Massachusetts, Dominicans over 52% of that population in Lawrence. So I'm interested to see how you guys participated and what feedback you offered the national conversation.
Well, there was a lot of issues, great topics that that we talked about. We talked about immigration, education, and one of the things that caught my eyes was we all come from different cities and towns across the United States, and a lot of us have gone through the same different struggles. And one of the good things that we did was we share ideas on how to make it better in our communities. And we were able to make some great contacts with the White House. Now, instead of just going through 5 different channels, we get direct access to some of these people that were there.
So access was important for you
Very
guys.
important for us, very important for every community, for all of us, to have access to those individuals that eventually is going to help out move our agenda and making sure that we work, you know, to better the community that we represent.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go to Dennis, but before I go, Frank, just where were you born?
I was born in the Dominican Republic. I came here when I was very young. So I've been here most of my life, 40-something years in the city of Lawrence. So
okay.
I practically
We don't talk about age in the show. Dan, where were you born?
I was born in the Bronx, but I'm a Red Sox fan, but I came here to Lawrence when I was 5.
Okay, and I'm going to go, don't worry, I'm not going to ask you what year, but where were you born? She was panicking when I looked at her about the age.
I know, because I didn't want to make all of you feel bad.
Yeah.
I was born in Harlem, New York,
Right.
Grew up in Queens.
Okay, and now I come to you because you are proudly Dominican, Puerto Rican, but you were born where?
I was born in the People's Republic of Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Exactly. But again, I bring that up because this was a discussion about Dominican Americans, okay, at the White House. So how important was that, Dennis? I know that you've got a good perspective on this because these are some of the stuff that you've been seeing as a little kid. You must have been very happy to start seeing these kind of issues being discussed at the highest level.
Well, for me, it was an incredible amount of pride that I felt traveling to the White House. I mean, this is really a demonstration by the White House and President Obama of his commitment to communities of color across the country, the Latino and Black community, and welcoming us to the White House to talk about policies that are important to all of us across the country. I mean, for me to get an opportunity to meet and get briefed by Tom Perez, who's a Secretary of Labor, who's someone that I hope one day will decide to run for President of the United States, to hear him talk about free trade and talk about human rights in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti was inspiring, and just to be with so many leaders, great leaders from across the country, I felt a great sense of pride, and it allows us to get back together in our community and to continue to meet. You know, just yesterday, Mayor Danny Rivera came to Cambridge and we had lunch and we were talking about our regional issues. Tonight, there's a conference call with other members of the group that were from New York and New Jersey to talk about how we move forward.
That's what I was going to get to, and I want to put up the picture of the other folks from Massachusetts, if we have. I know we have a photo of the delegate. There was 10 of you. Well, that's I saw a selfie version of that without Dennis. That was all over the place on Facebook. But there's a delegation, right?
We were fortunate. We had city councilors from Lawrence, the president of our city council, Modesto Maldonado.
I see Marcos Devers.
Marcos Devers was there. Oneida Aquino was there. And Estela Reyes. Who else?
We also had the president of Casa Dominicana, Ana Medina. We had City Council Kendra Vasquez, I believe.
So that was great.
Reyes,
and that was great from Massachusetts. But I want to piggyback to what Dennis said is, I imagine, Yvonne, and anybody can kind of jump in, is you must have, and you mentioned it, networked and kind of made acquaintances with so many other folks from around the country that you ordinarily would never have connected with, right?
Well, the cool thing was, and I don't know how Dennis was, that we had he's the first vice mayor in Cambridge, the first city councilor in different cities were there. The first elected state nationwide was there. The senator from New York was there. I mean, so you get a lot of these firsts there, and you get the excitement of meeting these people who broke the ceiling.
And you get that because being alphas and national, so you kind of see the importance of really gathering all these folks' voices from across the country in a united cause.
Yeah, I mean, there was a sense of collaboration. Folks were talking about different initiatives in their own states, and there was a lot of sharing of best practices. You know, the topic that was discussed the most, that was really close to my heart, was around education. And I think everyone there believes that education is the great equalizer in the society, right? It's highly correlated to our country's economic strength and prosperity. And unfortunately, in our communities, we lag a bit in the areas, high school representing the biggest dropout rates for Latino and Latina. And, you know, and then, which also means that less Latinos getting bachelor degrees, right? Only 14%, while Asians are getting 51%, and whites around 34.5%. What was really nice to hear was, though, the president's agenda around education and some of the initiatives and programs that he has in place, making sure that every child is ready and able to enter kindergarten, making sure that by the time they enter the 3rd grade, they are at age-level reading, which is truly typically an indication of their potential, ensuring that every child graduates from high school, ensuring that they go to post-secondary and gain employment when they graduate. And last but not least, he also talked about programs around violence prevention and initiatives like the mayor talked about around My Brother's Keepers, First Lady's Reach Higher program, the 21st Century Police Task Force, all programs and initiatives that will help in the disparity around education, preventing violence, and creating opportunities for a lot of the youth in our country.
Right. Now, I would imagine that we can go on and talk about different stuff. So we're going to stop it here. We didn't even get into some of the other stuff, but I definitely want to thank you guys for coming by, and really good luck and continued success.
Thank you.
All right, good. Say hi to Obama next time for me. All right.